Hello and welcome to R.Ed, Real Education Television. We're here today with Mike Nelson. Mike, tell us about yourself.
Well, I'm from West Philadelphia, born and raised. Playgrounds where I spend most of my days. I'm a student, motivational speaker. I get a chance to travel the country, speak at a lot of different schools and venues, and I'm also an author.
Excellent. This book you have is called Yes, You Can. Tell us a little bit about this book.
Well, the book is basically a little bit of my academic journey. You know, me growing up as a student, I'm talking about hating school. I couldn't stay in school. I got a master's degree and I still don't like school. And it just talks about, the trials and the tribulations that I had to overcome academically, not being the smartest kid, not being the brightest, going off to college and almost getting kicked out, having a 1.9 GPA. And then the book stretches out with 7 key chapters of what I've learned that helped me to make the transition from being a bad student to a good student. So I always say, if I can take these principles, and I'm not the smartest guy,
right?
So if I can take these principles and and I can make something happen, I'm pretty sure that other students can too.
Let's take that story back to the beginning. What high school did you go to?
I went to Bach in South Philly. You go to Bach so you can be okay. And then they shut us down. But it's all good though.
It's all good.
Yeah, they shut us down.
So when you were there and you say you weren't a good student, elaborate on that. What made you below standard?
I don't think it was the fact, sometimes you have students who are just not capable of doing the schoolwork. It wasn't the fact that I wasn't capable. I'm going to be honest, I just didn't care. Like, I just came to school and I just didn't care. I know school is like 180 daase. I might have been late probably 120. I just didn't care. Like, I didn't care about school. It wasn't a priority. Coming where I come from in West Philly, school is not necessarily the cool thing. So it's kind of like laissez-faire. You just like, well, okay, I'll do it. And so I think that was a big part of me contributing, me not getting good grades, me getting C's and D's. So I think that was one of my main issues with school, that it just was boring. I just didn't like it.
It's amazing how student engagement is a big factor in schools today.
Absolutely.
And no matter how much professional development people do with teachers at schools about student engagement, they're still not catching on to what gets students involved and engaged. What do you think was missing during that 4 years in school where you didn't feel connected and engaged?
Well, I think you hit it on the nose, that piece of student engagement. So, when I go and I do professional development, I always ask, teachers and principals, I said, okay, if we're going to be here with students for the next 180 days, what's going to make them want to be here? Like, it has to be some carrot at the end, and it can't just be a high school diploma. Like, it just can't be that. It has to be something before. So setting goals, realistic goals that they can get done. Just not saying, well, we're going to be here for 180 days. 180 days is a long time.
Long time.
It's a long time. So I think for me, that was the piece that was missing. I was trying to find what was going to connect me. Now I had to get up, get on a train, a bus to go to school. What was going to make me come to school in the rain, the sleet, the hell, the snow? It's 0 degrees outside, 100 degrees outside. There was no connector, and I think that's what in schools is missing, the connection piece.
So when you think about your high school career, if you could go back and rewrite that scenario, what would you have included that would have made you engage? What could have made Mike more invested?
I think that, having a little bit more teachers. I did have one teacher. We're still in close connection today, Mr. Goldstein, and he was somebody that actually I could tell that he cared. It came from a genuine place. So I'm not saying that this is against all teachers, but I felt like there was a piece that was missing, because a lot of the teachers that I had, I'm gonna just be honest, they didn't come from the same type of community that I came from. So if I would have had maybe a teacher who maybe looked like me, who could understand my plight, I think that would have helped me. I think if we'd have had some more engaging activities. Our school was just a lot about schoolwork. Now, we did have trades, different things that we were able to pick up, but I still couldn't feel the connection, because when I was there, it just was schoolwork. And I felt as though that some of the teachers, not all, but some of the teachers, I felt like they didn't necessarily go above and beyond. So that was my main thing. Like, I always say that people don't care how much you know until they first know how much you actually care. So I think that was missing.
Perfectly said. So when I think about myself in the classroom over 20 years ago, it took me several years, right, just to figure out the community I was teaching in, because I did not teach in my community. Once I did that, then I realized I then had to get the buy-in of the students. What does that look like? How is that done? What can teachers do to get the buy-in of the students? You said something about the community.
Right.
What does that look like?
Absolutely. I think, and I always tell teachers, okay, so I get it. You guys are all smart. You went to school, you got your degree, but it's just beyond doing the book work and all of the theory and all that. You know, it's beyond just doing lesson plans and curriculum. I think able to have that connection. I always say, you know, what I had to do when I go on, you know, and talk to students, you know, even me, I'm 28, so I'm a little bit older, so I'm seen as big brother. I have to get on their level as, you know, as much as I can. Now, not overstepping boundaries, you know, I don't want them to think that we're friends, but at the same time, just trying to find a common denominator. So I always tell teachers, you know, in your content, now I'm not telling nobody how to do their job, but maybe in your content, your lesson plan, if possible, you know, maybe you want to include some things that can help connect students. Fantastic. So I always use, like, when I'm talking to students, you know, I always use things like, you know, current TV shows that they watch, or, you know, music that they're listening to, and boom, right. It's like a light bulb moment. They're like, oh, I get it now. And so I tell teachers, we're speaking the same, you know, language. I'm just putting it in a way where it's going to connect them. So again, the big piece, I guess, for the day is connection.
I like that. And that's actually on Real Education Television, R.Ed TV. That's actually a topic we talk about all the time, student engagement. So when I saw your work on Facebook and on your website, I was very intrigued, because that is the language that I try to speak to teachers all the time. You probably know the statistics that the majority of the teaching community is white women. So for people to speak the language of the students outside of their community, we're specifically talking about white women between the ages of 20 and 40. How does that look? It's almost a foreign language, really. Absolutely. Because the communities are so different. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that, again, it goes back. You really have to be, and I know all educators are, but you really have to be invested into the students. So, you know, getting to know them, getting, you know, to know what they're like. So if you live outside of the community, maybe on a weekend, again, you're talking about going above and beyond. Right. Maybe on a weekend, I don't know if you want to put something together at the school, or just be able to walk through the neighborhood. Sure. and see, okay, the stuff that these kids say that they're living, it's not something that they make up. You know, this is real life for them. So again, I think the whole piece of you immersing yourself in the culture, in the community, that's the only way that you're going to have a shot of being one of those educators that's, you know, I want to say always remembered. That's the only way I think that, you know, those educators can actually have a shot at being remembered. So put yourself in the community, the culture, and then I think the students will know that they can trust you once they see you going above and beyond.
I want to give a shout out to a teacher friend of mine. Her name is Sophia, and she teaches at Eastern University Academy Charter School. And what I like about Sophia is exactly what you said. She listens, she cares, she's involved and she's invested, but she doesn't overstep her bounds. And so the cultures are connecting, but she is not taking on the other culture as though she owns it. Right. She's not disrespecting it or belittling it. And she preserves her culture as she understands and gets involved with another culture. And that's fantastic. So when you think about your high school career, and you say, in your own words, you weren't the best student, how did you even think that you were college bound?
Yeah. So again, I had a teacher, and I attribute a lot of my success. I had two teachers. I had one in 6th grade named Mr. Sapp, and one in he came about my 11th grade year. His name was Mr. Goldstein, and I played football. So he would tell me these small little things. He said he always called me kid. He would say, "Hey kid," he said, "I really think you got what it takes to go to college." And I'm like, college? Now, I told him, I said, look, I'm not trying to be funny, but where I come from, it's only two type of people that go to college. People who smart and people who got money. And from where I am, I was like, I don't fit neither of those descriptions. So he just would be on me about, Mike, just, you know, start applying. I'm like, okay. So I started applying. And what got me tripped up is that I was applying and I kept getting all these rejection letters. So I'm like, did you do this on purpose? Like, was this the method to your madness? And so I was getting frustrated. I said, man, you know what? This whole college thing is not for me. And then I got a letter. I remember like it was yesterday. I got a letter on my bed. It was in the mail. And it said, then it was Valley Forge Christian College. And I said, I was like, okay, please let this be something positive. And I opened it up, and the first thing I saw was, congratulations, you've been accepted. So
Wow,
I was like,
fantastic.
wow. So I went back and I made sure that I told him, like, yo, I don't know what you saw in me, but thank you for believing in me, because if it wasn't for you,
Right.
I wouldn't even have took that step.
Wow. And so you finally get your acceptance letter, which is a huge step. Now the work begins in thinking, how will you be a college student? So what's the first thing you did there after getting your college acceptance letter? What did you do?
I think it was a point where I started to grow up just a tad bit. I started to grow up. I started to think, okay, Mike, when you get there, like study habits, you got to make sure that you're in control of your time management. I started reading books. I was just reading all kinds of books. I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I was trying to read as much information as possible, that can help me with money, like, because I knew I was going to be able to have to get a job. I was on campus, so how do you manage money? And so for me, I really wasn't necessarily getting the academic piece, but it was all of the other skills that I think gets overlooked when you talk about education. So a lot of reading, a lot of asking questions.
So you had to grow up fast. When you think about college prep courses and schools, college prep schools prepare your brain for college. You learn everything that you had to learn quickly, Mike, in that short amount of time. Most kids learn over a 4-year period.
Absolutely.
Right? So you collapse a whole lot of information in that short amount of time. What happens next? You're finally a freshman in school with your own self-knowledge. How did you feel? What did you do?
It was a big culture shock. I was like, what? I was like a deer in headlights. I'm like, what in the world is going on? But I knew, so I felt good because I felt like I was the man on campus, again, the first one in my immediate family to go off to college. But I remember being in my first class, and I knew I was in trouble because the professor asked a question, and everybody raised their hand, and I was the only one. And I said, I have no idea what he's talking about. And it was at that moment, I was like, okay, Mike, you in trouble. And then I kind of went on a small downward spiral. I was already on academic probation. It was already a struggle, but at the same time, I couldn't call back home to my mom because my mom, she didn't have the college experience. I couldn't call back home and say, hey, Mom, I need you to help me with English. I need you to help me with science. I love my mom to death, but she didn't have that experience. So literally, I had to learn on the fly, if that makes sense. So that kind of was the first year kind of experience, trying to put pieces to a puzzle.
You're explaining this very well. It's exactly what happens. I meet a lot of students. I teach college in the evening, and because it's in the evening, I get a lot of students who are like you, who were non-traditional students, who did not think they were college bound, but found themselves in college because they need the college experience to get a job, right? And so with Delaware County Community College, we even have a slogan, find yourself here. And what we mean by that is, you may not have been college bound, but you'll find yourself here because you need us.
Love it.
Right?
Right.
And so I'm proud to be a teacher who is at community college, because these students need quality education as well. They spend a lot of money to go to school. So you were there, you're spending money, you're at college, you realize you're not ready. What happens then?
Well, I knew for me, I couldn't go back home. I didn't want to go back home. I remember my first year, I was in college, and my older sister, she almost died in a car accident. I'm talking about, it was crazy. Like, I had to get back home, and I was at the hospital bed. I was sitting, and I was like, yo, it'd be so easy for me to give up, and it probably would be justifiable to say,
absolutely,
you know what, Mike, just take a small break. But then I started thinking to myself, I said, Mike, again, assessing where I was, if you know for a fact, if you take this break, you probably never going to come back, because I would have gotten comfortable. So for me, I just was sitting there, and my mindset was, okay, Mike, you got to finish. You got to finish. You got to finish. So that was kind of my whole entire, mindset through that process. But again, it was kind of like a lot of trial and error, trying to figure out, okay, did this work? Okay, this didn't work. Going to, the writing center, getting, tutoring, asking my friends to help me. So again, I had to literally, which I try to tell students, you have to shift your entire mindset. Like, I had to stop thinking, okay, Mike, this ain't high school. I had to shift my entire mindset and say, okay, Mike, you have to get up on time. You're going to have to learn how to actually study. I never studied a day in my life before then. I had to learn how to actually study. And so it was through those, small things that I had to continuously learn. I think it helped me because I learned that I actually was more resilient than what I actually thought.
Right. Resiliency is a huge factor in college. You're knocked down all the time.
All the time.
Right? So financial concerns come up, lifestyle concerns come up, study habits are tested. So you're making it through your 4 years, maybe barely making it through.
Skin in my teeth.
Right? What was your plan thereafter?
My plan was, I said, okay, well, Mike, what are you going to do now? And again, I think one of the most important pieces about college is, as you explained, finding yourself. So I was able to kind of find myself, and I realized, I said, wait a minute, Mike, you kind of have this voice. I was selected to do a few things on campus as far as speaking wise, and people would be like, yo, that was good. And I was like, maybe I do have a voice. And I was like, okay, well, I know I do need a job, so I can't just be out here just talking and not have a job. Sure. And so I said, okay, what can I do with the voice that I've been given? How can I make that work? And so I got a job being a admissions recruiter. So I will, pitch students on, why you should come to this school. So I was able to kind of make it work. And then from there, I kind of got to a point where I was hitting this glass ceiling. I kind of got tired of it. It was traveling, you being on the road and all that. And I said, okay, Mike, I had to spend time away from my wife. And I'm like, okay, Mike, I'm kind of getting tired of it. So what's next? But that was my initial plan. Okay, Mike, get a job that fits what you do. And I always tell students, just because you major, I don't care what you major in, just because you major in that does not mean there's going to be a guaranteed job. Like, graduating is only phase one. After you graduate, it's time to go get it after that. You got to make sure that you position yourself. So that kind of was my small game plan that I had.
Okay, and so now we're working towards a career in communications in some sort as a motivational speaker. How do you even carve out a life in that field? It's a really large field.
Absolutely.
But it's very difficult to get jobs if no one knows you. And your speaking engagements and all the work that you're doing is actually part of this work. You're also an author. And this book, Yes You Can, 7 Keys to Student Success, is amazing, right? What is one of your favorite keys that you have written in this book?
For me, and I know students probably hate it, but for me, it's that discipline piece. I mean, that discipline piece. I probably would say, I've spoken to probably close to 100 schools all around the country, thousands of students. And one of the things I see that students don't have, it's not the fact that they're not smart, it's the fact that they're not disciplined. Yeah. And I always say, if you're not disciplined, I don't care how smart you are. Like, you being smart is not going to make you wake up for your 7:55 class. It's just not. That has nothing to do with that. You're going to need discipline. And I always say, discipline basically is doing stuff that you have to do when you don't feel like it. And so I think for me, that's the biggest piece. If I could take away just one key, and I know all 7 are great, but if I could take away just one and say, this is the one you really want to hang your hat on, it would have to be discipline. For me, honestly, that's the only way that I was able to have a shot, not even guaranteed, but a shot of being successful as a student. I knew for a fact, yo, Mike, you got to get disciplined.
Right. I like what we have here. Successful students hold each other accountable. That's incredible. And that's actually very real. And so when I think about how that looks for students, setting a study time, setting leisure time, looking at your life and making it realistic in terms of how you're going to be a student. So once you've finished your college career and started your work as a speaker, you started getting gigs, you're speaking. What does that look like? What are some, what can I look for when I'm looking at you on stage? What can I expect to see when I look at you on stage?
I think that you're going to see somebody that is completely transparent. I talk about, I always tell students, in the course of 4 years of school, something bad is going to happen. I'm not trying to push nothing bad on you, but 4 years, something's going to happen. My first year, my sister almost died in a car accident. My second year, I had an uncle who died of HIV. My third year, I had an uncle who died of prostate cancer. So there's all different type of things that are going to happen. So you'll see somebody who is transparent, somebody who is going to be real, somebody who's going to be encouraged. But I think the one thing I hang my hat on is somebody that's going to push students. So look, I don't care. I was speaking at a high school. I won't name it, but high academic students. I said, I don't care how well you do in school. My job when I come in is to make sure that I push you. So from the stage, you're going to get somebody that's going to push your students, and somebody that's going to, genuinely love your students. You know how many text messages and DMs I get like, Mike, you changed my life. And then when I respond, the students are like shocked. They're like, I can't believe that you responded. I'm like, you reached out to me.
You reached out to me, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think those are some of the elements that you'll see from the stage. I think one of the key things is that with these students, they can see right through you. You got to be transparent. So I don't go in. I'm not going in the suit and the tie, because a lot of students that I talk to, that's not where they are. They're not with the suit and the tie. So exactly how I'm dressed now is exactly how I go into the school. So a lot of times I'll get stopped in the hallway by like a hall monitor, and they're like, "Wait a minute, why are you not in uniform?" And I'm like, actually the assembly that's about to happen. Yeah, I'm kind of the speaker. And they're like, "Wow, you look so young." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I didn't ask to look this way." Right. So yeah, so
it's perfect though. It's perfect for the work that you're doing.
Oh,
that's
it's perfect.
Great.
Because when I get up, and students are like, "Wait a minute, he looks like me. You know, he looks young. You know." So I look at myself. Well, what they tell me is I'm like a big brother. So
that's fantastic. We're here with Mike Nelson on Real Education Television, Red TV. We'll be right back. We're here today with Mike Nelson on Real Education Television, Red TV, and I'm so thankful for Mike being here, being transparent, being honest with us, giving us his story. I felt like I was there on the journey with Mike. This is fantastic. He's the author of this book, Yes You Can, 7 Keys to Student Success. Fantastic. I'm really proud of the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
You're in the trenches is exactly where I'd like to be. I love students and what they're doing. I'm very proud of the work that students are doing to get to college. Let me ask you, where can we reach you if we'd like to get in contact with you for speaking engagements?
You can reach me at www.MikeNelsonSpeaks.com. You know, I'm also on social media, Twitter, Mike the Motivator, Instagram, Mike the Motivator, Facebook.
Right, wonderful, wonderful. And I said that your website is amazing.
Thank you.
It shows exactly what you do. You're pictured with students. You're a motivator, and it shows.
Thank you.
We're excited to have you here today. What would you like to say to the students?
I just want to share with you guys, look, one message. Forget what you did last year. Like, what you did last year doesn't count for this year. And I'm telling you that your school experience it's not going to be a rollover experience. What you did last year don't count for this year. So look, whether you did good, I want you to do great this year. And if you did bad, I want you to do good this year. So forget what we did last year. This is a brand new school year. It's a brand new opportunity to go out and to be able to get that scholarship. It's a brand new opportunity to go out and to be able to get those straight A's. It is a brand new opportunity. The critical question that you got to be thinking, that you got to ask yourself, is what you going to do with this opportunity? So take advantage of every single opportunity.
Fantastic. I'm motivated. I'm really excited. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
We appreciate you watching on Real Education Television, Red TV.